Good evening. Welcome to the concluding part of the day-long event, Education Without Borders. We have been through a day of very interesting views that have been exchanged, and we're going to do a recap of that soon. Right now, we have with us Dr. DNS Kumar. He's the Vice Chancellor of Sushant University, and he will be delivering the concluding remarks for today and sharing his views on the globalization of higher education. So,
Well, good evening to everybody. A day-long deliberation on such a relevant and contemporary topic, education without borders. Before I say a few of my thoughts, let me profusely thank all the 10 speakers of the day, Dr. Pratham Sinha, Dr. Joy Singh, Dr. Nagaraj Paturi, Dr. Kincha, Dr. Pillar, Dr. Kavita Sharma, Dr. Vidya Yerwadkar, Professor Gautam Rajkhowa, Professor Mark Watson, and Sugat Das. As we were conceptualizing and conceiving the idea of having a discussion on such a relevant topic, we gave a thought keeping a note of various webinars which are happening across the country and outside. In most of the webinars or panel discussions, we pose some questions. We give the speakers maybe 7 to 8 minutes. But we gave a thought, if the distinguished and learned speakers have to bring on board the relevant thoughts which are there, which can be executed, we must give them sufficient time. Keeping in mind, we made this session as a day-long session, and I'm sure the participants, my colleagues, and even other speakers, by listening to other panelists or the resource persons, must have learned something. When we were deciding on the topic, I remembered Professor Bock, former president Harvard University. Once he said, "Excellence without a soul, how a great university forgot education." What he meant was how much students learn and why they should be learning more. There are two things. One is he kept a current education, how it requires a disruption. And he also brought a future perspective towards education. Therefore, we gave a thought. Everybody talks about internationalization of education. Many of our students go abroad for studying. We also invite so many international speakers to deliberate in our universities, seminars, conferences, and all. Is it that our education is so irrelevant, which international perspective we cannot give? If there are some gaps, how to bridge those gaps to our current educational system or the process and the policy that we have, and how we can make our education as international education? We touched upon three aspects: knowledge, values, and skills. But today, if we look at the global scenario, in addition of knowledge, values, and skills, we also have to build a competency, professional competency, and competitive spirit among the learners. These learners may be community, students, or faculty. And when we have all these 5, 6 knowledge, value, skill, competitive spirit, professional ethos, a good attitudinal formation happens. And that attitudinal formation, with all these aspects of education, internationalized education, we will be able to bring disruption into our education. How to do that? Today, if we look at Indian education, we are into a mass education. You take any program for that matter. It may be engineering, it may be BCom, it may be BBA, or it may be any liberal arts. Across the universities, 90% we deliver the same, with the same pedagogy. Why can't we bring some professionalism in that also? Some skill sets in that also. When I say professional, can we think of integrating international certifications which are globally acceptable in our programs, which can be done easily? As a professor of management, if I look at management program of Stanford University, they won't facilitate the learners only to take up the management education, but they have integrated professional certifications such as IRS, CPA, CMA, CFA, etc. That builds multi-skilling and also the multi-competitiveness among the students, which we have not done in India. If we do that, why international students will not come to Indian education? The second aspect is, as Professor Vidya Yarwadkar was talking about the policy, we also can easily float, keeping in mind the historical, the geographical, the scientific, the natural resources pool that we have, some of the capstone certificate courses and diplomas for global market, which we have not done. That also we can. At the same time, we must also, if Indian education system has to be internationalized, currently some of the obstacles and the hindrances that we come across from regulative machineries, wherein most of the time has been spent on compliances, needs to be reduced, and pure and fair autonomy has to be given to higher educational institutions. If you check with any vice chancellor or the dean or the registrar of a university, around the clock of a year, they are into one or other compliances. The academic development is very limited. Take the example of approach which has been adopted by India in terms of banking sector. In 1969, we nationalized the banks, but over a period of time, we learned nationalization is not helping. Then we privatized. And today, Indian banking system is one of the best systems. In the same way, education also has been privatized. But we have to come out of massification of education. We have to identify the regional requirement, the national requirement, the global requirement, and universities have to be given, the higher educational institutions have to be given, rather, higher educational institutions have to take the responsibility of venturing into such programs, the programs which will build the values, skills, and competencies. Now, the question may come, why this is not happening? If you look at any higher educational institutions, the process of management, how the revenue which has been generated is spent. Before I say how it is to be spent, let me say how it has been spent today. 35% of the revenue, approximately I'm talking, is spent on working expenses. Maybe 1 or 2% is spent on knowledge enhancement. And developmental, around 25% is spent. And return on investment is 50%. But if you reverse it, spend as much as for creation of exposure, enhancement of knowledge, development of infrastructure, technology, disruptive thoughts will come in the minds of intellectual resource which is there on campus. Maybe students, maybe faculty, maybe community, or the industry friends who are interacting with educational institutions. What I mean is, there should not be symmetric competition. There has to be asymmetric competition among the educational institutions. Today, I get the students for BCom, my neighboring university also gets for BCom, somebody also gets for BCom. But in the corporate world, in the community, in the NGOs, the requirement is not the same. The requirement is different. At the same time, if we have to internationalize the education, our faculty have to be trained, and trained faculty also have to be retained. That is, an approach has to be totally distinct. An approach which can help every stakeholder of education. And our courses also has to be a distinct courses. Take for example, the then Planning Commission, currently Niti Ayoga, had come with a working paper. How much of fruits and vegetables are wasted in India every year? It was 12,300 crores rupees of fruits and vegetables are wasted every year. Can we plot a course how this issue can be resolved and this can be capitalized? And when it was analyzed with its perspective, the market value of these fruits and vegetables is around 43,000 crores. The payback period is less than 6 months. Today, students want a live courses like this. Then only internationalization of education happens. I was a part of one of the project wherein I was helping 100 plus foundry people how they can establish the common infrastructure and do a better business, not indigenously, but also internationally. When I ask my students, these are the castings which are produced by these 100 plus foundries, find out the market available across the globe, which was not done in the past. When we brought to the notice of these foundry men, they started exploring the market. In terms of value, in terms of volume also, we brought to their notice. And today, they are not regional players, they are global players. And when we discuss that one with the industrial policy and promotion of Government of India, today on website of Ministry of Industry and Commerce, we have an icon on the right hand side, DGTD. When you click on that icon and put an excise code number, which is 4 or 6, 8 digit, for any product, it is not just costing, it may be gems and jewelries also, it may be hosiery also. What is the market available for your product across the globe? Everything is available. That kind of educational perspective we have to build. We also have to create an awareness about an education system which is there by tying up with international universities, international institutions, international scholars to do multi-location, multi-host conclaves, wherein a participants can get certificate course or diploma or whatever it is. As the panelists were discussing about national education policy, as we implement the national education policy, although we talk about demographic dividend that we have, and from GRE 26% we want to go to 50%, there is no guarantee that future learners will come to the portals of higher educational institutions. They may do certificate, they may do diploma, or they may do advanced course, or they may do degree also, but not from one university, but doing the credit courses from number of universities. That is the kind of education which is going to emerge. So therefore, we need to come out of the current era of massification into a new era of more real-world relevant and personalized educational pathways. And for that, what is required in higher educational institutions is learning analytics. Why the students are learning, for what purpose they are going to learn, and how they will be learning. This kind of analytics is very important. At the same time, upskilling the faculty is very important. Each one of us have to introspect how much we are facilitating. We are talking about internationalization of higher education. But we require intellectual resources. Can we internationalize with the current base of intellectual capital that we have? How much investment we are going to do in terms of building a new intellectual base, that is upskilling, building the new skill set among the existing people and also the new people. If you want to do truly the internationalization of education, it is not only mentorship, but reverse mentoring is also very important. We have to learn from young talent base also. Today we have 980 plus universities, 40,000 plus colleges, standalone institutions, central universities, state universities, deemed universities. What is the kind of competency level we have at the leadership level? How many of us are disruptive? In terms of bringing the processes, the pedagogy, new programs, incubating the ideas, building the rapport with the corporates. So therefore, we also have to bank upon some of our seniors who may not be there in the portals of higher education institutions as a directors, as a vice chancellors. But they know the perspective. We require, and I'm of the firm belief, every vice chancellor requires a retired vice chancellor as an advisor. We have to brainstorm. The students who join higher education institution, they won't remain with us for 10 years, 15 years. They are there only for 3 years or 5 years maximum. So therefore, we have to take a very calculative call. What is education? What should be the future of education? And what kind of programs to be brought in? As I mentioned, about the education, about the programs, let me touch upon another aspect which needs to be discussed, deliberated, and call has to be taken in line with the international programs is, if you see any international program, they teach less and they make the students to do more. But in India, we hardly make the students to do, but we keep on teaching. If you take master's program of 2 years, we carry out 100 credits. But in internationally, not only number of credits are less, but number of hours per credit also are very less. So friends, throughout the day, a lot of deliberations have happened. Distinguished scholars have added a lot of new thoughts. Let us bank upon such thoughts which have come and let us mark forward in order to bring true disruption in higher education to internationalize our education, so that currently close to 5 lakh plus students who go abroad for higher education can be retained here, and more students can be attracted from other countries also. I once again thank all the learned speakers who spent their valuable time in deliberating on quite a relevant and contemporary topic of the day, and thank Professor Nina and her colleagues having made it possible and created such an interesting interaction among all the learners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Always encouraging to listen to you. So now it's my prerogative to deliver the word of thanks. The aim of this retreat was to generate knowledge and raise questions in the field of the globalization of higher education. We hope today's deliberations have contributed to this. Theme 1, which is all about thinking, has enlightened and guided us, while theme 2, rooted and informed us. And both have been critical in locating us in this field. I would like to thank Dr. Pramad Sinha for demonstrating the connection between theory and practice, Dr. Joy Sen for his interpretation of India scientifically and for providing us with an umbrella of thought to work under. Dr. Nagraj Paturi for his comparative analysis of disciplines and pedagogy, Dr. H.P. Khincha for his exposition on technology and the Indian ethos and remaining rooted in the academic process while he was doing that. I would like to thank Amaya for her unique perspective and for her wisdom beyond her age. Dr. Pilar for her passionate relationship with India and its academic manifestation. Dr. Kavita Sharma for her candid and experienced critique of ground realities. Dr. Hira Abdekar for her clarity, precision, and forthrightness. Professor Gautam Raj Khowa for his structured exposition of processes and systems. Mark for sharing his journey to highlight the outsider, and that's in quotes mark, perspective to knowledge sharing. And finally, Sugat Das for his specific initiatives and his unique design for life concepts. None of this would have, of course, been possible without the mentorship of the Vice Chancellor, Dr. D.N.S. Kumar, and he provides us with an ecosystem which is challenging and innovative at the same time. All of this has been absolutely enriching, but none of this would have been possible without the amazing team that we had to work with. So thank you very much, Sasi, for your intuitive ability and for the visual language that you imparted to the entire day's proceedings. Himanshu, thank you very much for your contribution in spite of your very unreasonable schedule and the fact that you were unwell. Diyali for her infectious enthusiasm and focus, Anushka for her positivity and her learning attitude, and finally Nain for the amazing creatives and her accessibility at all times. Thank you very much for making today a success. Let us hope these deliberations result in something which can give rise to future such initiatives, and we hope to continue this conversation very soon. Thank you very much.